the lane. 15-10. Touchdown, Chargers.
What's up, guys? Welcome into an off-season edition of Chargers Weekly. And when I say off-season, buddy, I really mean the off-season. The guys have gone home. They've broke camp for the summer. Training camp 5-6 weeks away. But guess what? Fans come through, and we got a ton of questions that we're going to answer over the next 40 minutes or so.
Yeah, we got the dates, and I was surprised. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not going anywhere in the middle of July. Normally we're used to showing up end of July, but Coach Harbaugh's like, no, Ricky's going to be here July 16th. Vets, you're going to be here July 23rd. So, we get rolling early. This is, I mean, as far as I can remember, it's the earliest we're going to be going back for training camp. The NFL official back together again, training camp day that they do the whip around all 32 camps isn't until July 29th. So those rookies going to have a heck of a head start, and the vets as well. So going to be a lot of fun. It's a month away. We're less than a month away from rookies. So we got this small little window. And as you said, you put the call out, you put up the Bolt signal, and people have picked up their Bolt phones and called in with some great content. We lean on you, the people. That's how lazy we are today. You create our content.
Yeah, first week with the guys, like we need some help, and you guys came through in a big way. Before we get started, did you see Harbaugh's mic'd up?
I did.
It's great.
It's great. If the NFL had their way, they would have Harbaugh mic'd up every game, all game, and I don't know what's over at NFL Network now in terms of original programming, but that was always one of my favorites. I don't remember if it would show up on Monday or Tuesday, but they would have the half-hour mic'd up show and just kind of a best of, and you would assume he'd be front and center for darn near all of them.
Oh, yeah. He definitely would be. Hey, before we get started, did you see Austin Ekler on the Kay Adams show?
I did, yeah.
Do you want to talk about it? Because a lot of fans are, I think, upset about what he said, and I listened to the entire interview, and listen, I have empathy for these guys. First, he was incorrect in saying they want a guy to run the ball 300 times. That's not what they want. Yeah. They don't want that. They want a guy who can be physical and maybe collectively run the ball at a physical level 300 times. And that's not Austin's game. But I don't know. I feel like, Kay kind of said, well, hey, you know what? Why wouldn't they want you? And he kind of had to give an answer.
Well, for me, Austin's not here because he wanted more money. That's really what it comes down to. I think if he would have taken the same number that Gus Edwards took, or the same, J.K. Dobbins is on a prove-it deal. It's a $1.25 million deal. Gus Edwards is on a 2-year, $4.5 million deal. You combine those two, and Austin Eckler's making more. So It's, for me, and good for him. I am all for football players making as much money as they can. It is a gnarly way to make a living. It is a short career, and you have got to squeeze every possible cent out of it. Because when you're done, and you're staring at having to start a second career or invest your money wisely and live off what you managed to make over the span of a half decade, maybe in some cases, 7-8 years in some cases. I mean, the guy's not even 30 yet. So I get it. Go get the money, man. It's not because they need a guy who can carry the ball 300 times. Now, the backs they did sign are a lot bigger than Austin is. Austin, even though he's strong as an ox, man, and pound for pound, one of the strongest guys, just wasn't that physical back at the point of attack, that could get you. Think about how many 3rd and 2s and 4th and 1s we routinely would see the Chargers come up short on. And I'm not putting that all on Austin. I'm just saying I think that's let's tear this whole thing apart and figure out how we can get better in short yardage. And perhaps Austin was a part of that. But I didn't have any issue with him saying they wanted to go in a different direction. That was a misalignment, I think was the word that he used to describe why he's not here anymore. But I assume you're also talking about the perceived shot that he took at Justin Herbert.
Oh, with the
podcast.
We talked about Jaden Daniels and in leading? Or what did he say about Justin?
Yeah, I think he was talking about Phillip and just how Phillip led, like you would expect a 15-year vet to lead, how he would come up to you in practice and be like, no, this isn't the way we're doing it. This is the way we do it. And he was there to make the calls and let everyone know where they're supposed to be and put everyone in their places. And he said when Justin came in, he's a rookie. He doesn't have that level of leadership. He doesn't have that level of command. So it was two completely different, styles of quarterbacking from he's like, when I came in, I'm this undrafted free agent. Here's Phillip Rivers, one of the greatest to ever do it, setting everything up. And you're just ready to plug and go. Whereas with Justin, you didn't get that because he's a rookie. So some people thought it was a shot, but I did not take it as a shot at all. I think it was just we know what Phillip was like out there. Yeah, Phillip bites your head off if you were one step out of place. It's just the way he was. Yeah. And certainly Justin's not like that.
I'm of the mind if a guy's not here anymore, you don't need to worry about what they say. Give Austin his props for what he did for the Chargers, how he busted his tail
as
an undrafted free agent in 2017 and put together some really good years for this team. And he did. He said it was bittersweet too, leaving the Chargers. And I imagine I was. You go to the East Coast, you get reunited with Coach Lynn and Cliff Kingsbury and a rookie quarterback. So I wish Austin well. And then, hey, did you have Chris Harris on with you and O'Neal?
Not that comment did not come from his appearance with us, but we've had Chris on multiple times. I had Chris fill in once for Lowe when Lowe couldn't do it, so I did a whole 40 minutes with Chris, and we love Chris. Chris was always great with us.
I think his comment got taken out of context a little bit too. He talking about whether or not Justin's clutch or not, and if you listen to the rest of that interview with Kay, he mentions that. Yeah, of course, with the right coaching, with the proper defense, and with the right personnel around him, yeah, you can be clutch in the fourth quarter. But, basically, former players, don't worry about what they have to say too much. Don't put too much stock in it. Focus on the Harbaugh era,
I didn't think that Chris's comments were fair. I just didn't. You can point to the Jacksonville loss. The guy did build a 28-0 lead. They could not run the ball. They had a number of defensive lapses, and that to me is not on Justin. I don't feel like, did he miss some throws? Yeah, but whatever. You're up 28-0. Your defense has got to help you out. Now the team only scored 3 points in the second half. I get that part of it, but again, they were trying to work the clock to their favor and just couldn't do it. And the guy was put in obvious passing situations in 3rd and longs, and that's. And you had a missed field goal in there. So it's not like, but my point, what I said when I first heard that a couple weeks ago was there's just no way you can make that statement knowing that the Week 18 game against the Raiders
that was about to come out of my mouth.
Exists.
Turn that tape on. And that's all I need to say. Just turn that tape on.
That game exists. He had that game won. And it's one of the greatest. Had they won the game, that fourth quarter performance would go down as one of the all-time great fourth quarters by a quarterback in NFL history. Like that thing would go down as. So, yeah, like you said, that Chris isn't here anymore. He's working with Believe and doing the Broncos stuff. And, maybe there's a little something there. You just got to work on we do it. I love taking shots at the Raiders and, you take shots at the Chargers. It's fine. It's fine. But I didn't think that was fair either. And by the way, I just want to make sure I had it right. Yes. Austin, 2 years, $8.4 million. You got Gus and JK for a combined $3 million this year.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to these questions. Let's start with an internal question. Jamin, this is a good question, Money. Out of the 2023 rookies, who do y'all think is going to make the biggest jump this year? And then the second part, this is fun. A Chargers touchdown that still gives you chills. I'll start real quick. I think that you could pick Quentin Johnson. I think you could pick Scott Matlock. I'm going to go with Deion Henley. I think Deion Henley is going to take the big leap because he's going to get the playing time that he deserves, and that's just all going to take care of itself. The Chargers touchdown that gives me chills, one of my favorite calls by you, 2018, Kansas City, Mike Williams. The touchdown and the 2-point conversion to win that game. I still will never forget being at the tippy top of Arrowhead Stadium trying to make out what happened and still being in disbelief that the Chargers came all the way back to beat the Chiefs in prime time.
Yeah, that's the biggest touchdown that I've called in my career, maybe one of my favorites, just because I was able to be part of something, and I tried to keep myself as small a part of it as possible, but being able to call Antonio Gates' record-setting touchdown, from Phillip Rivers was pretty special. And it wasn't, it was in the temporary home, when we were over there at the time. I think it was Dignity Health, or I don't know what it was at the time, what it was called at the time, but the stadium there in Carson. So it wasn't the best atmosphere, but just to be on the field before, kind of have a feeling it was going to happen that day, and then seeing it happen and seeing that connection with Phillip Rivers and Antonio Gates, and then after the game, you were there, Chris. After the game, you just see how special it was, and that locker room with particularly those two individuals, was really special to be on the periphery and witness. But in terms of impact, yeah, I think the Josh Palmer, again, they didn't win the game in week 18, but man, when Palmer caught that touchdown, that was like a holy crap moment. This is really, they're going to pull this off. They didn't, but in that moment, you're like, I can't believe they're going to pull this off. This is going to happen. And that touchdown was pretty darn special too. As far as the jump, I'm not going to disagree with you. It's Deion. Yeah. He's going to be the start. He's going to be a starter. Now, Will Matlock, he was out there with the ones with Puna, so he's got a shot. They need that kind of bulk and that strength and that girth and that run stopping ability on the interior of the line. And he was out there with the ones. It was Khalil, Joey, Puna Ford, and Scott Matlock. So those are, to me, the two obvious ones that I would probably suggest have a real good shot of working out.
This is from Noemi Money. Which position do you guys still see that needs to be addressed ASAP? Who are your top 3 candidates to fill that position? Love the podcast. Thank you guys for all the work you put in to keep us fans informed. What do you think, Money?
Well, I love that they signed Tony Jefferson. That's great. That's what Derwin wanted. And so I don't know if that means they're done there, but I would assume he showed them something, right, that led them to sign him. But safety is the one I have the most concern about, and corner for that matter. I don't know how much Stephon Gilmore has left, but he played pretty darn well last year in Carolina. I wouldn't mind seeing another corner just to help with the depth at that position. So those two come to mind. Defensive line, we talked about, right now your ones on the depth chart are both, Scott Matlock and Puna Ford. So I think that's probably something I'd keep an eye on as well. So yeah, that's probably it. I think if Jefferson has, if he's the guy, if Tony Jefferson's the guy and they're comfortable with him, then okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Then we're good. It's a little, I wanted to look up his age. So he's 32. He's, is he 32? Yeah. So he's 32, just turned 32. So you get, it's an athletic position. You need to have athleticism to play at a high safety spot.
Took a year off,
so that's the only thing
maybe a little fresher than most guys out there right now.
Yeah, so that would be the one that I was most concerned about, because you want Derwin to be able to move around and be as versatile and get that assignment that Coach Minner wants him to have every single game, and having a safety does that. So that would be, I still think those are the corner, safety, D tackle are the spots that you could probably say, based on who's released and who becomes available throughout training camps, a spot where you could see some turnover.
Yeah, no arguments on all 3 of those positions. I think those are the top 3. I would say maybe, adding to the corner room, especially when you have these edge rushers, getting a veteran like a Gilmore or somebody who has that requisite experience to pair with, we always hear that rushing cover working together, getting another body, a veteran body in that secondary wouldn't be a bad move. But in terms of ASAP, I think Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh have done a really nice job, just kind of continuing to stack this roster with moves, even post draft, with DJ Chark and Bud Dupree. So let's see. Yeah. Let's see here. Rule asks, I think a lot has been made about QJ and Derwin not being used the way they should be with past coaching regime In what ways do you expect their respective roles to shift? Where will DJ line up, and what type of routes will QJ run? Well, you talked about Derwin last week and how he's going to be used differently, maybe on a week-to-week basis as opposed to being moved around throughout the course of a 60-minute game. And as far as Quentin is concerned, we've talked about that too, just getting him on the run. He is an athletic run after catch type wide receiver. And if you can get him in those positions, then he's got a real good shot to have a good sophomore season, Money.
In terms of, using Derwin or QJ the wrong way, I think it's important to, kind of provide some context. I don't think they wanted to use Quentin the way they did last year. The injury to Mike perhaps forced their hand, but I do think there maybe could have been a conversation of, I know we need a big receiver. We need an X. We need someone on the outside that can, and he fits the body type. He's got the speed. But I think that's where you have to ask yourself, are we going to set him back? Or are we going to damage the confidence? This is not what he's good at. So I think what you're going to see Quentin do a lot more of this year, and you've heard everybody that's been asked about him intimate this. Got to play to his strengths. And his strengths at TCU were quick hitters. Just get the ball in his hands. He led at the NCAA, he led NCAA Power 5 in yards after catch. So that tells you you don't want him running deep and you don't want to ask him to track the ball and that catches over his shoulder and fight for 50-50 balls downfield, have to deal with a sideline as an extra defender, all that sort of stuff. Get him in the middle of the field, get him on crossers, and let him get to work there. In terms of Derwin, yeah, they probably gave him a little too much last year. The defense was a mess last year, right? It was one of the worst defenses in the league and could not stop giving up explosive plays. And with the injury to Joey and all and then the issues with the linebacking core, they did have some serious injuries that the inability for JC to make an impact at corner, and that thing being a complete disaster, I think led just to trying to put a Band-Aid over a hole that was this big. And that meant moving Derwin around way too much and just asking too much of him.
Yeah, well said. A couple Ben Herbert questions. I'm really curious to know what real differences Ben Herbert has been bringing to the team's workouts and recovery. Hey, fellas, what are the players saying about conditioning with Ben Herbert and company versus the old regime? Do they feel better physically, mentally with the new crew? From what we see through pictures, it looks like it's night and day, and there's a purpose and reasoning. That's from Meerkat Manor and Al. And I would agree that there's purpose and reasoning. Now, the results, we won't know until training camp and the season, right? Whether these guys can stay healthy, kind of limit injuries, and be ready to go in the fourth quarter when it counts. Now, it looks great right now, and I think you're getting rave reviews from the guys, but that's not a question you can answer in June. This is a question that is better to be addressed, I think, maybe September, October, once these guys have maybe 4 weeks under their belt in the regular season.
The only thing I would add to that is they're excited to talk about it. They like it. That to me is the biggest difference. I've not heard this team, and it's not them. I don't think it's the players taking a shot at their previous strength and conditioning coaches because they weren't really asked about them. So maybe they did enjoy it as much, with Anthony and with John Lott and all of that. They just weren't asked. The only thing I can really remember ever asking about strength and conditioning was when Lott had them work out barefoot because he thought maybe it would help strengthen their feet and loosen their feet up a little bit to maybe prevent all those foot injuries. That's the only time I can ever remember asking about strength and conditioning. So Ben Herbert comes in with this reputation as the best strength and conditioning coach in football. So you're going to be asked about him a lot. But I do think there is you can see it. You can see it in body language when players are answering the question. They get excited. They like talking about it. They love talking about the sleds and the medicine balls in the fourth quarter period that they have after practice. Megan just posted something on social with Justin Herbert, and it's all of him, and he doesn't he's very humble and shows humility all the time. He doesn't like attention on himself, but he's in there working out with Herbert and doing his bands and doing his work, and he's laughing and he's like giving him looks and waving and stuff like that. So that would lead you to think, yeah, he's enjoying himself. So that to me is look, you want these guys in there, right? You want them in there as much as possible, voluntarily. Hey, come on in. Yeah, I'm here. What do you want to do? That's what you want. And it appears as though that's happening and they're buying in. Now, ultimately, his job, his number one job, is to provide availability. The coaches will work on the ability part. The strength and conditioning coach is going to work on the availability part. And that's, are you available in the fourth quarter? Are you available with full effort in the fourth quarter? Can you give 95% when your opponent can only give 90%? That's what, like you said, we'll get our idea around the first 4 weeks of if there is a significant jump in the way these guys perform late in games and staying healthy.
Well, he comes in very heralded. I mean, from Michigan, you hear about all the Michigan fans talking about losing Ben Herbert and what Ben Herbert has meant to that program. And, it's fun to hear the players talk about kind of more of a collegiate atmosphere in that regard. The attention to detail, which is something we've heard all offseason.
Yeah.
John Lott did shave Justin Herbert's head for the record his rookie year. So that was another
Yes.
John Lott headline.
Big mistake, Lottie. The folks did not like that.
We love John Lott, though. Hey, what's the most under the radar camp battle, Money? This is a good one. This is from David Thompson.
Ooh. Well, it's not a battle yet, but I think it's gonna. I'm trying to think. I was going to say right guard just because we don't know, right? We don't quite know what Trey's going to be yet. And I think it's such an important position because of the value that this coaching staff puts on offensive line. Feels like those other four are set. It's Bozeman. He's been celebrated. They talked about why they signed him, the leadership he brings, how he fits in perfectly. We know Joe Alt's getting the start at right tackle, Slater at left tackle, and Zion at left guard. So in order for this offense to work, to really work, if you've got a dominant offensive line, like in the conversation as one of the 5 best offensive lines in the league, what Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman can do with that level of advantage going into every game offensively is what's really going to make a difference in this season. So that's I think the most impactful battle. I think slot corner is going to be heated. I do think Tarheeb still's got a shot to get that. Ja Taylor is there right now, but what if they find another outside? How does that work? Is Asante in that conversation then if they find a bigger bodied outside corner? So that to me is probably that's probably the most impactful battle on the defensive side. And then the most important one in terms of like a roster spot, I think, is probably that third safety. Just because you've got a lot invested there in JT Woods. It's a 3rd round pick in his 3rd season who's expected to make an impact. And, if you can't win that battle, then I don't quite know, kind of what's going to go on there.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
What do you got?
That 4th safety. I guess, if you're assuming Tony Jefferson's the 3rd safety.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. So I think it's a huge training camp for JT Woods. The slot corner too, I was going to say, Bunny, when you hear Tarheeb Still and his name come out of Jim Harbaugh's mouth during the mic'd up a couple of times.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you were there when he had a big day.
He's a player, man.
That guy could be the slot corner. And I don't think he's a rookie that fears competition. And that's another position. The right guard, I mean, Sawyer's there. McFadden. Can Trey make that transition and make it effortlessly so he's ready to go week 1? There's so many little ones. And then, I think we are assuming that Colson and Henley will be your starters and Perryman just, sprinkled in there as a hammer. But just how the linebacker room shakes out too, that's going to be interesting. And, I'll end with the wide receivers because the order in which we see the wide receivers right now, your guess is as good as mine. And I think we have a couple of questions about this we could talk about.
I would imagine there's a lot about the wide receivers. Everybody wants to know how much is Herbert going to be throwing it? Who's going to be catching it? How can we get him back in the comp? People as we've said before, I don't know why, but they do. People get so caught up about where their quarterback is ranked, about where talking heads say what tier they think Herbert is in versus Burrow versus Lamar Jackson and all of that stuff. People get really upset about it. And as Herbert said in his presser, I don't care. Do I want to throw it every play? Yes. But if me throwing it 15 times leads to a win, then let's go. Don't care. Get the game plan for that week. Go execute it. Exploit the soft spots of the defense that you're facing, however best they can be exploited.
Well, if you don't want to hear quarterback tier talk, just turn off the television in June, because that's what
it's all it is right now. Because it moves the needle. Yeah. Like I said, people get emotional about it. So, of course, they're going to tune in to see and get upset about how dare you rank Joe Burrow ahead of Lamar Jackson. He's won 2 MVPs. You out of your mind? The guy can't stay healthy. Where's Tua? Tua led the most explosive offense in the league last year. What are we doing here? There's CJ Stroud. After 1 year, you've got him in the top 5. Are you kidding me? And it's look, it's what you do. You program to what people
press buttons,
can pick a side on and get fired up about. Absolutely. Yeah. I do, however, and even just expose myself and say, I can relate to this as well. Like the individuals that do the CJ Stroud praise and throw shade at Herbert are the ones that befuddle me. Because I'm like, you guys, you do remember what Herbert's rookie season looked like with Shane Steichen, right? You do remember that he was CJ Stroud, that he broke every record, that he had the best rookie season since Andrew Luck, that he had the best rookie, arguably the best rookie campaign ever, and people forget that. And then, well, he's, CJ, this was incredible what he was able to do.
This is different.
Yeah. Look what he did. Well, yeah. Look at the division he was in. Herbert was trying to deal with Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and that rookie season. He went into an AFC South that had an injured Trevor Lawrence, had a declining and out of the lineup Ryan Tannehill and rookie Will Levis, and an Indianapolis team that lost their starting quarterback in like week 2. So a little bit easier to navigate that division than Justin Herbert was asked to do with Max Crosby and the Raiders and Derek Carr and that offense that had been stagnant and been working together for so long with John Gruden. And then anyway, that's the one that always gets me. It's like
they're so silly. And you know what, buddy? You have to wave the white flag until Justin and Harbaugh hook up.
It doesn't matter. Where your quarterback is ranked does not matter. It's a subjective list. Let them put them where they want. Who cares?
This is from Andrew Loya. Hey, guys, I'm curious about what you think about this question. Who is the bigger tackle prospect entering the draft, Slater or Alt? Now, if you remember, Penei Sewell went before Slater. Slater went right after Micah Parsons, and he dropped. Like, he fell into the laps of the Chargers. I guess if I had to pick which one, maybe Alt, just because this was such a heralded tackle class, and he was the first one off the board. But I'll preface it by saying this: if Alt is anything close to Slater, then we're in good shape. You're in good shape as a Charger fan, because Slater, I think, still is the best left tackle in football. You can make that argument with a lot of different, maybe 2 or 3 other guys, but
Trent Williams,
Trent comes to mind. A year older with Trent, but Trent's going to be a Hall of Famer, gold jacket guy. But I just think that Rashawn's injury, his second year, I think people forgot how dominant he was his rookie year.
Yes. So I think that's a good question for us to ask DJ when we get him on.
Yeah.
I would 100%. Be interested to see what grade he had on Alt versus what grade he had on Slater, because he liked Slater more than Sewell.
That's right.
The issue with Slater, the reason why Slater slid and why he wasn't as heralded a prospect was his measurables. He doesn't have incredibly long arms. He's not 6'5", and that led some people to talk about, is he a better guard? That's that conversation then comes in. But his anchor is so good. His ability to reset, his sets are incredible. But when he resets, and nobody resets quicker. Like, it's And once he gets his hands on you, it's over. So that's a good question. I think the thing with Alt, because the word in the question is prospect, it's probably Alt. You've got his father, John, who's, was one of the best tackles in football for a decade plus. He was the best offensive lineman on a Notre Dame team that I think won the O-Lineman Award twice while he was the best O-Lineman on that line. So you're talking about, and with measurables that we just don't see. You don't see someone that tall be that dominant because they're asked to get a little bit lower. But then when you can do that and you have those types of levers and that type of leverage, you can really mess some people up. So it's probably Alt, but that's a good. Let's put a pin in that and make sure we ask DJ, because that would be. I'd love to know which one he gave a higher grade to.
Seems like a good training camp podcast when DJ's there.
Yeah.
Kevin Wright, how many total sacks do you expect the 4 edge rushers will end up with? Also, do you believe, or rather, who do you believe has the higher floor, offense or defense? You know what, Kevin? As far as sacks are concerned,
that's an interesting one. Floor.
I'd much rather talk about quarterback hits and pressures and all those things, because, we joked with Tuli last year how he set people up all season long. So collectively, sacks, pressures, hits, like if you add all that up, I don't know. I mean, it depends on if these guys are all healthy. If they're all healthy, I mean, this has the makings, Muddy, of being a pretty deadly unit with Bosa, Mack, a 21-year-old Tuli, and a grizzled veteran like Bud Dupree.
I think they get a lot. I do. I think they can get a lot if they stay healthy, just because of the schedule. When you look at the schedule, Vegas did nothing to upgrade their offensive line. That's 2 games right there. That's the one reason why people were so surprised at the Brock Bowers pick. They're like, you're really going to go into the season with, and they tried to supplement that with Jackson Powers-Johnson in the 2nd round. But I think a lot of people figured with this tackle class, you want to bookend a right tackle with Colton Miller, who's getting up there, that made more sense. So what I'm saying, New England has one of the worst offensive lines in the league. Denver, Mike McGlinchey was a disaster last year. They got to get that right. And I think Garrett Bowles, after having his career season, perfect timing, Garrett, going into his contract year, certainly regressed. This is someone that led the league in holding penalties, and he regressed last year. So now you got 2 against them. Kansas City, we know Jawan Taylor was almost benched, and he was a mess. They got Wanya Morris on the other side. So that's 2 games right there. Now, Patrick Mahomes does not take a lot of sacks. So you combine those 2 things. But as I go through it, Tampa Bay had to reset their offensive line. They still have Wirfs, but pretty much they're resetting everything else. Atlanta's got a solid O-line. Baltimore lost 2 starters, or 3 starters, I think, off their offensive line. Tennessee, we know, drafted Latham, and they're trying to rebuild that O-line there. Cleveland's got one of the best in the league. That's a tough one. New Orleans always has really good O-line play, but we don't know how that, we know Derek Carr likes to take sacks because he doesn't want to get hit, so he'll just take a dive. Can't help myself. So when I'm getting to Carolina, we know, had the worst line in football last year.
All right, if I put the over,
I'm getting at
I put the over under at 40 sacks between these 4 guys, would you take the over?
I would not. I would not say 4 guys are going to average double-digit sacks. That's a very, very large number.
But I'm saying like
I know what you're
Khalil
saying.
Gets 13,
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Bud gets 7. Joey gets 12.
But that's a big. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's a big number.
That's a big number.
That's a big number. If you can get the top 4, to average between them, let's say 8 sacks. So let's put it at like a nice 32. That feels like a pretty good number. And if you can exceed that, man, you are cooking with gas. I think I'm going to put that out there because, you're talking about reps as well, right? If you want these guys to stay fresh, but you hit it on the head. It's all about hurries. It's just about wrecking the play. You don't have to get a sack to wreck the play.
TFLs,
the sack wrecks the drive.
Yeah.
But you're right. Hits and hurries and incompletions and all that sort of stuff is what's as important as the sack numbers.
Muddy, he also asked, who do you think has the higher floor right now, the offense or the defense?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Higher floor, I would just say offense because of Justin Herbert. Yeah. And so that to me is the higher floor.
Yeah.
I feel like anytime you have a quarterback, an elite quarterback guiding your offense in a quarterback league, you're always going to have a high floor. So that to me, not to mention you've invested in the offensive line. You have two of the top you might have the top tackle group in the league if Alt is everything that he's been built up to be. So when you have those two things, you have a high floor.
From our guy Bull Moose, could y'all perhaps provide insight on the changes in coaching staff size and what is the expectation this new staff will bring regarding execution? Seems like we've had a fairly small staff for the last decade, but was hoping to hear what the difference is. That's a great question, and I think the head coach is the reason why maybe the staff's a little bit larger. I think just the collection of ideas from a guy like Mark Trestman to Greg Roman to Harbaugh. It seems like even in just the mic'd ups that Harbaugh really does value the opinion of his assistants, and it really is a group effort, and these guys really want to coach their tail off for him. So I don't know, the size and staff, it comes from the head coach, right?
Yeah, to me, it's probably less about the size, but I don't mean to just push back on the question, but to me, the more important part of it is the amount of money they spent on assistants. These assistants are making a lot of money, and that wasn't necessarily the case in the past. So the way I view it is whatever Coach Harbaugh has asked for, he's been given. When he has said, no, we need to pay our strength and conditioning coach $1.5 million a year. We're going to make him the highest paid strength and conditioning coach in the league then. Yeah, we are. And that's kind of how it's gone. I need to keep Jesse Minter. He's going to have offers. Colleges do not mess around. You're going to have the Alabamas and the Georgias and the USCs and the Tennessees of the world offering to write this guy checks worth $2 million a year, and we've got to keep them. Okay, here you go. Here's your check. So I think that's, and the flip side of that, it's not the flip side of that, but another interesting element of that is for Harbaugh, whose son was his special teams coach, to recognize, Coach, can you meet with Coach Ficken? We think we have someone who's in the conversation as the best special teams coach in the league. We'd love for you to meet with him. And to walk away and say, yeah, he ain't going anywhere. We're keeping him. Yeah. And his son is now coaches special teams up in Seattle, I think speaks to the level of investment and how important his assistants are, how important the staff is to Coach Harbaugh.
Yeah, well said. From Leah Smith, love the show, fellas. Which game are you gentlemen looking the most forward to? Bolt up. Oh man, I could pick a million games. I will.
For me, it's
go ahead.
No. You go.
All right.
I'll give you first dibs.
It may be a little obscure, and it's just, I think it's a combination. It's week 3 and week 4. It's in Pittsburgh. It's Mike Tomlin versus Jim Harbaugh on the road in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's home opener, and you got Carolina the week before. But this is the real test, right? These are two heavyweight coaches, a hostile environment. That crowd's going to be rocking, and how will the Chargers on the road respond? I think this will be like the first real test of the Jim Harbaugh era. And then to follow that up with a home game against the Kansas City Chiefs, Harbaugh versus Andy Reid. I think that 2-week stretch is probably the one I'm looking most forward to. Now, you could easily say the Raiders week 1 or the Harbaugh Bowl. You could pick anything, but I'm just going to say weeks 3 and 4 and cheat a little bit, Leo.
There's a lot. It's a fun schedule this year. When I was about to say the game, my initial answer was going to be Pittsburgh, and all the stuff that you talked about. It's a road game. It's one of the most hostile environments. It's a team that likes to play physical football and has a really, really good defensive front. And it's going to be that power run game against the strength of the Steelers, the front seven. And like you said, two coaches that like to beat the hell out of their opponents. And it's going to, the opener is the opener. There's so much emotion. There's so much that goes into that it's just hard to have it sort of sit in the rhythm of the season, because it's the opener and it's the Raiders and it's the debut of Harbaugh and this new offense and this new defense and all that. that goes into it. So after you get 2 games, you get a home game, you get a road game to settle in. That week 3 is going to tell us a lot. I really believe that. The one, like you, the one under the, I don't think it's the under the radar. It's not under the radar, but the one that's also, I think, going to be really fun is week 11, Cincinnati.
Mm.
Cincinnati, that's a formidable opponent, but I also think it's a team that is in a very similar spot as the Chargers. A team that's had some success. Now, granted, they went to a freaking Super Bowl, so they've had a much, much more success than the Chargers. They've been in the playoffs seemingly almost every year, but a healthy Burrow versus a healthy Herbert is going to be fun. That's going to be and it's at home. That'll be a really fun game, I think. So that's one I'm definitely looking forward to. The Cleveland game is very similar to the Pittsburgh game. Incredibly physical offensive line, incredibly physical defensive line. 2 coaches in Stefanski and Harbaugh that want to run the ball down your throat.
Yeah, Jim Schwartz
so
with Jim Schwartz mixed in there.
Jim Schwartz is the defensive coordinator. Going back to the backslap moment. There's so much there on the banks of Lake Erie. At the beginning of November, won't be too cold, but it'll be football weather. It'll be in like the low 40s. That'll be a lot of fun. So it's a good schedule this year. It really is. And how about New England in the dead of winter? December 29th in New England. Like, that's going to be freaking gnarly too.
Yeah, that may be a Drake May game too. He may be in the. It could be your 2 and whatever, 3 and whatever, and it's Drake May time in December.
Yeah, no doubt. I would be surprised if it wasn't.
Time to trust at 619 Shaggy. This is a cool question. Besides LT and Gates, who's the one past Charger that you believe would best fit in this roster? And he says Lorenzo Neal. What do you say, buddy?
Oh yeah, I'd love to have Lo Neal as a fullback. That'd be fantastic. Yeah. No doubt. Would love to have Lo Neal. I mean, there's a million, right? Just imagine Junior Seau as the quarterback of this defense with Jesse Minter and what he's able to do, and
that's
the
only answer. I think that's the only answer. Junior Seau.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of having Seau out there would be incredible. In terms of, so like, there's just to like having Eric Weddle as your free safety with Derwin. I mean, you want to talk about 2 dudes that can freaking see it, read it, completely wreck it. Like, that would be a really fun safety tandem. Weddle and Derwin would be fun too. There's you already have your quarterback, but
imagine Phillip and Harbaugh together. That would be
that
would be fun.
I mean, Nick Hardwick at center to quarterback the offensive line. What he was able to do in the run game with LT. Like we said, Lorenzo Neal as a fullback, just blowing guys up. I mean, my God, linebackers wouldn't stand a chance against Lo Neal, let alone the size of corners and safeties now. I mean, he'd put people in the freaking grave. He'd hit them so hard they wouldn't know what the hell hit them. Yeah, there's a lot of options there.
So good questions this week, guys. Hey, this next one's from Greg Kim. Hey, Greg, do you just want to jump on and ask this?
We appreciate Greg.
Oh, Greg's on his nothing recorded, so he said no.
You can do it.
All right, Greg.
It's the best. No.
Fine. From Greg Kim, which Chargers player would have the highest chance of winning a medal in this summer's Olympics, and what event would it be? So that's another good question.
Yes, it is. Because the best chance at winning, if they don't have anyone with just stupid speed, Chark is probably their fastest.
Well, how about our guy Praise? How about our guy Praise? Olatake.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, just signed.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
I think that's him.
Yeah, Praise Olatake. Yeah. That's a great call. Yeah, because did he run the 4x? What did he run?
Let's just confirm this.
I believe that's what it was. I think he was a 4x. I'm pretty sure that's
Ohio State. 4x100.
Yeah, he was 4x1.
Yeah.
So yeah, he finished 5th. Here we go. So finished 5th in the 200. Anchored the 4x1. So yeah, he's there. That's your guy.
I think it's praise.
I think you probably wanted to talk about, a starter and who would you go with. Slater is incredibly strong when it comes to powerlifting.
Or powerlifting,
You get the power. Slater is crazy strong in the weight room. He throws a ton of weight around. Same with Zion. So those two in those strength categories would certainly be interesting. I think that's where, that's probably what you're looking at.
All right, a couple more. We'll get out of here.
Do they have fishing in the Summer Olympics? Can we put Herbert out there?
We got a guy. Justin could probably do some Olympic sport very well. Kurt McIntosh, any thoughts on who RB1 will be to start the year? I remember hearing on your pod that Gus has an injury, and what do you think will happen with Spiller? All good questions about the running back position.
Don't know on Spiller, but he's a big back.
It's another camp battle,
big back.
Another big camp battle.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's going to, Dobbins, Edwards, and Vidal are going to make it. I would assume they'll carry a fourth because of how much they run the ball. Will it be Spiller? Elijah Dotson never really had a chance to succeed last year because nobody could run the ball on this team last year due to the lack of a blocking tight end and an offensive line that just did not excel in run blocking. So that's going to be a big camp battle, Dotson versus Spiller for that fourth running back spot. Look, if JK's healthy, JK's an elite back. JK has qualities that a lot of backs in this league don't have. He's a full service back. He blocks well in pass pro. He catches the ball really well. He has got elite burst vision, ability to finish runs. Gus is fantastic between the tackles, and he's incredible in goal line, short yardage. So they're going to be a tandem. This is not going to be a 300 carry workhorse back offense. It's going to be a lot of rotating, a lot of Gus, a lot of JK. But yeah, I think if you were to ask the coaches, hey, everybody's healthy, what's the carry distribution look like? I think JK gets out of the season with the most carries by a pretty healthy margin.
Yeah, that's a good call. Richard asked about the running game. Marcus asked about the running game and the personnel sets. If this offense is going to run a lot of 12 and 21 personnel sets, in your opinion, how many receivers will the Chargers carry on the roster? 5 or 6? And I think
that's the big question.
You alluded to that last week with some of these 7th round picks. It may be tough for them to make the initial 53.
Yeah. They're going to really have to flash to make it.
Yeah.
They're going to really have to flash to make it. And I think if they don't flash, they'll be fine. You'll be able to park them on the practice squad. I don't suspect they're going to get claimed if they don't have a monster preseason. It's Palmer. It's obviously Palmer, Quentin, McConkey, Chark, Darius Davis. And then after that, it becomes a question of, do you want to carry that 6th? Did somebody raise their hand enough that you don't want to expose them on the practice squad? But those top 5 will make it, and then we'll see whether or not another, receiver can make it worth the, Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh's while to keep them on the roster because they can contribute on game day. And a lot of that goes into special teams, especially with the new kickoff rules. Yep. So if one of those receivers really excels on special teams, then you can make the case, hey, let's carry an extra receiver as opposed to an extra fill in the blank, whatever position group you want to talk about because of special teams, defensive back, running back, fullbacks sort of thing. Does it make more sense to carry that extra receiver because of how they're going to contribute in the third phase?
We'll end with Dilly. All recent talk has been about the rookies, QJ, DJ Chark. What have you seen so far from Joshua Palmer, and what do you expect his role will be in this offense? I mean, we've seen Joshua Palmer, throughout the last few years. Do you see Joshua as a guy who will take another leap?
Yeah, just because he has, because he's going to get the targets. He's going to be the number 1 targeted receiver this season if he's healthy. So I would assume he takes a leap. He can, Josh Palmer can put together a, 70 catch, 80 catch season, 1,200 yard season, 7-8 touchdown season, and I will not be surprised. I will not be the least bit surprised if he puts something like that together. He's a great receiver. He is a really, really, really good receiver. So that would not surprise me at all.
No.
Now, what has he shown so far? Not much, because there's not much to show. Yeah. There's not much to show right now. So
yeah, that's the thing. Some of these questions: how does Brendan Rice or Cornelius Johnson look? Well, you guys will get to see when we see in training camp what these guys are all about when the pads come on.
Yeah.
So, hey, this was a great week. You're always a little nervous once mini camp is over and you got to figure out, we could have done quarterback tiers this week, but the fans, the fans helped us out, Money.
You notice how I yawned there when you said quarterback tiers? Or we can do over-unders, Vegas over-unders. You want over or under win totals? That's the other one that's going right now. We'll look.
You know what? Why don't you guys tweet at us, comment on YouTube, and let us know what you want over the next month, and we will try to deliver that. How about that?
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
All right. Appreciate the questions, guys. For Money, I'm Chris. This has been Chargers Weekly. We'll see you next week.